Hi, and welcome to Chain Reactions, a weekly live stream from Myosin.xyz, the leading global marketing network, and hosted by yours truly, Blake, and my co-host, Polina. Tune in each week as we jam on the latest happenings in the wild and wonderful world of Web3. We're live on Unlonely.app every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, and release the pod every following week on Tuesdays. Now, let's talk Chain Reactions. All right. What's good, y'all? How you doing, Will?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, man.
Doing good. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And we're ready for Denver. It's coming up soon. But yeah, let's get into it. So welcome everyone. This is Chain Reactions, one time a week. Normally this is a live stream, but I think for today we unfortunately had some technical difficulties, so we're just gonna record it as a podcast and share it out with the world at a later date. But really excited to have Will on here from Movement Labs. I think Movement's doing some really cool stuff in the ecosystem. I think they're one of the leading teams on community and just the future of L2. So I think to get things started, as we normally do, Will, would love to have you kind of talk about yourself, what you're doing with Movement, and we'll take it away from there. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And I love the off the cuff improv. It's what
Always.
we do as marketers. Sometimes you got to call an audible. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's a long story, but I'll keep it short. Essentially, what I do at Movement, I'm the CMO. So that's everything from growth to policy to community to brand to product to, devising campaigns to talking with community members to doing content. I got into this industry because I believe in, decentralization. I believe in the ideas of Web3, going back to all the way to the Cypherpunk manifesto and this idea of privacy to, now we're having conversations with governments and, making sure that they become more transparent, like the blockchain as well. So it's kind of like what got me into this industry. And, we came out of stealth about a year and a half ago. So, everything that you guys see now is, the grit and the hard work of, what a movement can look like in a year and a half. Pretty incredible.
I see how you slipped that in there. We're talking about, Movement Labs, how a movement starts. Clever.
Yeah.
Spoken like a marketer.
Before Movement, where have you been? What were you up to before you joined Movement Labs?
So I've lived many lives, but all of them had the common theme of, helping people and brands and movements. So I was at Sony working as an A&R, working with musicians to start my career. Pitching blockchain as a way for artists to go direct to consumer and interact directly with their fans. I went from there to, CA ICM, which is a talent agency more on the TV film side. Very similar, right? Like I was working essentially for the middlemen and trying to show these artists like middlemen might not be as necessary as they once were. A good middleman still will be, right? Like great agent, great manager, great label will still create a lot of value, but some artists don't need that. So I went from there to working at the government, which is why, people are starting to see this emergence. They say it's like an overnight success, but it takes 10 years to make it. I was working at the government 10 years ago, trying to progress some of this stuff that we're talking with them about now. So
that's crazy. It takes a village and it takes a long time. And I feel like it's so often that we see it as overnight success, but when you dive deep in, you're like, as you're saying, it took a decade or longer. You never know. Yeah.
We used to say when I was at Sony that it took 7 years after your first radio hit to get famous. And there's a great artist named Joey Badass. I was working with him when he put out his first radio hit, Devastated. And it took about, a few years after that for him to really just be on top of the world. But it takes time.
Absolutely crazy.
I think that there's a lot of marketers who actually would consider joining Web3, but will know where to start. Okay, I joined Twitter. I read and maybe interact with all of those people. But what was your experience like? Like how do you join? So, I mean, at that time, Movement Labs was not as big maybe as it is now. So I'm curious, how did it come about joining the team?
Yeah. So I was the first non-technical hire. So I joined Movement, as early as someone can join, I think. So the story goes, I was at a VC meetup at Consensus Austin. and I was playing music. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit bored, so I was just like, kind of DJing, just like trying to entertain myself. And it was because it was late and I was tired. And this young guy comes up to me and he was like, "Yo, I fuck with your style." And that was Cooper Scanlon, the founder of
Word for word.
word for word. He was like, "I fuck with your style, dude. I like what you're doing." And I was like,
good vibes, good vibes.
yeah, exactly. I was like, "You're lit as fuck." And so I went from like, kind of being checked out to being like, "Who's this guy who just like flattered me?" And he starts telling me about this idea of this programming language called Move, and how there's this liquidity issue and this user problem, and he's a builder and he wants to, and he's just like walking me through it. But it's like 3 a.m, so I'm like, let's talk like during the day, right? And so 2 weeks later, we get on a phone call and he walks me through it, and I just fell in love with it. And I was like, I was working for another company at the time. I was doing M&A. I called my boss. I said, I got to go work with this guy. I got to go run his marketing. And so I called Cooper and Rushi and I said, I'll take a third or quarter at the time of what anyone else asks you, and I'll run your marketing, and I'll run it better than anyone else can.
Damn, that's commitment. That's bullishness.
I wanted to give them an offer they couldn't refuse. To the people looking for a job, number one recommendation I can make yourself undeniable, and then work so hard that you're undeniably great, and then they'll never fire you.
Well, you came in with so much confidence without really doing marketing in Web3 before, so completely different industry. I envy your confidence here, to be honest, where you were just like YOLO, or you actually had full conviction and like the plan of how you want to make this work.
That's a great question. I'll be honest with you, right? I've been insecure for a long time. I didn't know for sure, right? Like, it's funny you say that. And I haven't shared this story before. I was at Stanford Blockchain Week. This is now 2 months after I joined. And obviously when I had that conversation, Paulina, I believe what I said, right? Like, I remember when I interviewed for Sony, I told the senior vice president of music, I'll mop the ceiling if I have to, whatever I got to do to get this job. And that's kind of the same energy I had with Coop, which was like, my work ethic is I'll do whatever I have to do to get the job done. So I knew I had the work ethic, but to your point, I didn't know what a marketer in Web3 looked like. I didn't know what a CMO of an infra company did. And so, yes, I was afraid, and I felt, like I felt insecure. So I'm going to Stanford Blockchain Week. I've been doing it for about a month and a half at this point. We're planning to come out of stealth, and I start getting cold feet. I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm driving with a buddy of mine to a conference event that I was throwing. And I was like, I don't know that I can do this, man. And he goes, you're never going to know until you try, Will. And he was like, and you're the GOAT. Why are you doubting yourself? And I was like, you're fucking right.
Sometimes you just got to be a little delulu, that's how it goes, just fucking go with it.
Eventually it becomes real. And then through the process of this year and a half, now here I am on this podcast with you all. Like, my doubts are gone. I still take risk. I'm still nervous, but I'm in.
So,
I love it.
When you joined and you convinced everyone that you got it all covered, you know how to run marketing, you had some ideas. I said, what was your game plan like, or the first thing that you wanted to implement?
Well, and then real quick before we even dive into that, so hold that thought though, right? I think I do want to give Will some props here, because I think the thing that kind of like what you're talking about, right? I think it's not like you came from nothing, right? I think it's this culmination. I think what people don't see is, working at Sony and working at all these different places gives you these different skill sets and capabilities and confidence that ultimately ladder up to, being able to put yourself in this position, even into an industry that you don't know much about, you knew about it, but like you haven't been a CMO at a blockchain before per se, right? But it's also good because I really think it adds a unique perspective, right? And I think the vibes are high. We're about to dive into community and how you built that. And I think that brings a point of differentiation that, what is marketing about but standing out and doing something different? So,
dude, you're so on point. And I appreciate it so much. I think it's a good point to point out to people too, right? Like, when you're asking, like, how did it make sense? Well, let's take a step back, right? Like, so government, I was doing community building and community organizing. So I had that expertise and experience of like working with 1 million people because I represented 1 million constituents. I'm lobbying bills and I'm trying to convince other offices that like what our legislation is important. So high stress, community oriented. I had people calling me like, Will, I'm getting evicted right now.
Oh,
when I was
geez.
at the
That's
Senate.
tough.
So it's
Yeah.
like the stress of the government job. So that was stress and community building. At ICM and CAA, I was an executive assistant working 16 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
I had to be super organized because agents are lunatics. And so I'd have people being like, you put a double space in this email? Are you fucking idiot? And I'm like, and so like I developed a real sense of like being super detail oriented, being very
Yes.
organized, managing a calendar, managing a budget, all things very important to being a CMO, right? And then at Sony, and I think each of these is as important as I wouldn't be
Yep.
able to do this job without my entire
They all come together.
exactly.
You know?
Sony was relationship management. How can I build trust? How can I build community with people where it's an institution and a business that is fundamentally built on distrust? 360 deals where artists have been taken advantage of their whole lives by labels. And so I'm coming in, you know, with a civil rights education background because I want to be a civil rights lawyer. And I'm thinking, how can I make artists trust labels again? Well, instead of us giving them this, you know, extractionary, you know, very predatory deal, what if we make a deal where we're going to only get a piece of your streaming and then you can keep your touring, you can keep your merch, you can keep your pubs. We're just going to go for streaming because at the time, Apple and Spotify were popping up for the streamers. That's now called a distribution deal. It's one of the norms in music now because the labels realize if we don't do this, we'll die. And that was just an idea I had when I was at Sony. I was like, oh, this could be helpful.
You heard it here first. This man invented distribution deals. Let's go.
I mean, listen, I'm not going to take full credit, but I was there. I was
on the ground floor. Let's go.
I was there. Look, 21 Savage was an artist I brought in, and he ended up being one of him and SZA are kind of credited with being the pioneers of distribution deals as it relates. There was already sub-distribution deals for labels, but we can get into the music industry another time. But that's kind of the culmination that, to your point, Paulina, I was afraid and I didn't know if I could do it, but I had an experience in the workforce in many different ways that the culmination made me prepared in a way I didn't even know I was until now looking back. I'm like, oh shit, I was ready for this shit. Yeah.
I think after being an executive assistant, you're like, I'm so ready for whatever you have. It can't be worse.
You also start to see like these executives. I mean, they have big titles, but it's nobody knows what they're doing, right? So it's like, who's got the grit? Who's got, you know, the chops, or like who's ready to just fucking get shit done, right? I think that's the important thing.
To your point, look, I think this is the most undervalued secret of business. The executives do a great job if it's a great business, but it's the staff, it's the team, it's the support system. Like I couldn't do shit if I didn't have Tarab building out like an incredible ecosystem. I couldn't do anything if Rushi wasn't this incredible, you know, founder and communicator to VCs about the vision. I couldn't do it if Cooper hadn't sold me on the vision and wasn't this amazing community-oriented founder. Like Chris on the content, Carmen on the PR, Zen with the designs, Brian with the product, you know, Liam with the engineering. It's the team. So
takes a village.
You know, it takes a village. And so as much as I got to give myself credit to, I wouldn't be shit without the shoulders I stand on.
And I think like we asked multiple teams this question, but how big is the marketing team at Movement Labs? Because you guys are doing so many things. How many people does it take to handle it all?
It depends on what you'd qualify as marketing. So if you don't count community, which I do, it would be 3. If you count community, it's 5.
So let's talk about that, right? Because I think, you know, I think a big theme for this entire conversation is going to be community. I feel like it's one of the most, on one side, it's one of the most overused buzzwords in our industry, but at the same time, I also believe in it, right? I wrote an article a couple of years ago. We call it direct to community, right? Which is very much, that is what Web3 marketing is. That's the magic of blockchain. Is now, unlike traditional Web 2, it's not like you're just blasting a bunch of people with ads being like, buy our product. It's actually saying, hey, you know, we're launching this network, and to power this network, we need a community of people who care about this thing. And so people can get in from the ground level and really work their way up. Now, with that in mind, obviously, like that's been a big part of your focus. It's been a big part of your background. So just kind of walk us through, like when you started at Movement, and you were starting to think about what is our strategy? How'd you go about it? Did you have an approach? Was it kind of ad hoc? Like, how were you thinking about it when you first got started?
Yeah. So I think because it's the place where I'm most comfortable, it was the first thing I was thinking about is like, how can I build this community? Past blockchain startups that I've been involved with and like the NFT scene and everything was community building. So I'm a big believer in like, go where your strengths are. Actually, I'm going to emphasize this too. This is a great, Cooper shows his strength in this way. When we started, he goes, Will, how can I help you? And I said, Coop, I need to fail first before I can answer that question, because the places where I'm failing are the places I need help. So for anybody that's like building in Web3, like take risks and then go to the data and see like, where am I falling short? And then that's where you need to go find support from your team. So going back to the community side, I always was super passionate about community. And so I'm like, we're hitting the ground running. I'm making campaigns that are oriented towards every kind of person in Web3. I'm building out quests and guilds and Discord roles and participation mechanisms so that everybody that's in this industry can see themselves in the movement. Because also I'm a brand guy. What better way to build community than to build a movement? You can't give me a better blank canvas than that. So that's kind of the way I looked at it, is like, how can I include literally every single man, woman, and child that participates in Web3 a voice in the movement? And then it was off to the races from there.
You said that when you joined, you were in stealth mode, right? The movement was in stealth. How did you, what was the catalyst moment, let's say, to get the community active where the product was still in stealth?
That's hilarious. I loved the moment that we came out of stealth because I'll remember it for the rest of my life. So I was in Singapore at Arthur Hayes' house. He was doing like a party or something. And I'm talking with our head of community, Merck, who had just started, and we're planning we came out of stealth with our pre-seed announcement, which we worked on with Avalanche, and they were early supporter of ours. Shout out to the Avalanche community, by the way, because they were there for us before anyone even knew who the movement was. So shout out to Avalanche. We were coming out of stealth, and Merck's in the US, I'm in Singapore. For anybody planning an announcement, please don't make the mistake I made of doing it at 3 a.m. in Singapore.
Wait, was this at the Arthur Hayes party like 2 years ago?
Yes.
Token.
Yes.
The crazy one that
that's exactly what it was. And there was like a mob, dude. There was like a riot, not a riot, but there was like a stampede.
And then everyone started to show up. They're jumping the fences, went crazy.
So when all that started happening, there's like this crazy stampede. I'm like, I got to get the fuck out of here. I got to do this announcement.
Got to move. Move.
I got to move. And so I get on a bus. I bus back to where I was staying in Singapore. Yep. Awesome city, by the way. Shout out to Singapore.
Love Singapore.
And I'm on with Merck, and we're just planning it. And that was how we did it, Paulina. We just shot out the first tweet. I had a 6-month content plan, by the way, that was ready to deploy the second that tweet went live. So basically, I joined in June. We came out of stealth in September. So that time in between June and September, I spent, and again, a recommendation to anyone, when you have the time, plan. There's a great quote. It's, we don't plan to fail, we fail to plan. Yeah. So I planned my ass off up until that moment that tweet went out. And that once that went out, then every single day after that, we were talking about what we were doing, what Move is, what our product offers, why people should get involved. We were doing partnership announcements, building out the ecosystem, doing roles in Discord, experimenting with the community building plans. But I remember that moment like it was yesterday, and just,
that's a crazy time in crypto. That's a crazy way to launch come out of stealth too. So I love that.
So just live streamed with an announcement from the party.
Straight from like TikTok.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And there was like mistakes in it that we had to iterate. I mean, look, it's this stuff is messy, right? Like I think everybody that works in this industry knows it's not easy. It moves at the speed of light. And if you're not comfortable to be uncomfortable, you're not going to make it in this industry. And so, look, I didn't want to do it at that moment, but that was the time that we decided as a team, we're going to hit send. And the rest is history. It worked out.
Gotta move.
6-month content plan makes me nervous, but also question, like, how did you manage? You had so much conviction that it's gonna work exactly the way that it's supposed to work, because there are so many like product and partnership related, things that can go wrong at any time. So I imagine it was like an approximate plan, but
Yes.
not like, okay.
And it went wrong all the time. I mean, like we had to move partners, we had to change spaces, we had to reschedule content, we had to rework content, we pivoted. These things, like I said, these things are messy. But yeah, so funny story about that. The day before we started, I obviously had my plan. Rushi's like, I don't like this, change it. And I was like,
you're like, oh fuck, 24 hours, let's go.
Yeah. So look, sometimes that happens, right? We have stakeholders that we might think that this is perfect and they might disagree, and you gotta go back to the drawing board. So the day before I had to tweak the whole plan. Oof. And actually I think the way that we tweaked it was good, but yeah, that it was not a perfect scenario. But it's good to have a framework. Like for anybody that's marketing or building community in this space, like having that guardrail where you're not bound by it. Like I didn't say we're doing this plan and if we don't do it, I quit, right? I'd be a lunatic in that case. But it was like, this is a way that if, let's say, to your point, Paulina, something falls out, like let's say we're announcing a partnership with Myosin and then you guys are like, hey, we need a few more days. I have a piece of content in the backlog in my back pocket because I have a 6-month plan where, oh wait, we prepared this piece about, atomic cross-chain swaps. Let's loop that in. And then that way we never have to stop rolling and we don't get overly stressed.
Stay flexible, babe. Stay flexible. I realize as we're talking about this, I realize I think we may have glossed over a very important question, which is we talk about the movement. We talk about Movement Labs. What is movement? Right? What is the movement? Why should people care? Because I don't know if everyone all knows, right? I think probably people have heard about it. People heard about what you guys have been up to. The vibes are certainly the community's there, but can you tell us why should people care? What is so exciting? What's different? Let's talk about that real quick. We can go back to that.
I would love to. So let's start with the basics, which I think is really important to like have a conversation like this. Like for a lot of
all good.
This is the issue of running the movement, is that people don't know. I'm getting interviewed by the greatest interviewers on planet Earth. They think that I'm just busy or something. They think I'm not busy. So yeah, taking a step back, I think it's a really important inflection point to like, what is Move? One of the reasons that I was so excited is that we have this incredible programming language. But I'll start by saying that, and then I'll go into kind of the 4 things that I think are like the most important for the movement, right? Like, so the Move VM, the Move language, post confirmations, and then interoperability within the movement network. I think those are the 4 things. Like for anybody listening right now, that's what wakes me up in the morning and gets me super excited about this project. Is that, look, the EVM has issues. We're trying to solve those, right? Our industry has problems that we're trying to solve. And I think the 3 main categories are speed, safety, and look, interoperability is incredibly important. We need to make sure that we're all kind of connected, but we need to be safe, and it's got to be cheap. And it's got to be fast. And so I think everyone in the industry is trying to solve for those 3 things, right? Speed, safety, interoperability, and look, and cost effectiveness. It's a business. We got to make sure it's cost effective. And that's kind of what movement is in a nutshell for a non-Web3 audience. But if you guys want to get even deeper into it, we can talk about the Move programming language, which I mean is still to this day, like I think the most undervalued asset in this industry. It's all the security, all the efficiency, all the reliability that we're kind of bringing to the industry is rooted in this incredibly prolific language. So anybody that's listening right now, I highly recommend like go learn about the DM project, go learn about Aptos and Sui. Like without Move, there would be no movement. I can literally talk about this for days.
I love it. No, but we don't have to get too deep into technical weeds, because I do think a lot of our audience, it's people who are like either in Web3, they're typically marketers, obviously, so that's definitely the general focus, and then people are crypto curious, right? So it's always thinking about, how are we bringing more people into the movement who aren't just deep in the weeds and getting them excited. That's the game.
Yeah. I would want to touch base on like the funnel for the community, because movement has one of the most engaged communities in Web3, and I want to know how does that funnel function now? I know you had a framework when you launched, and it sort of comes from Twitter, that's top of funnel, right? And then Discord is ultimately bottom of the funnel. But how do you make sure to, turn those people who just heard about you raising pre-seed into people who are actually, saying G move every day on Discord?
Yeah, I think that's hilarious. I think you make a great point about top of funnel to bottom funnel. Like, I think when you're building the community, the way that we approached it was, obviously we need to get people excited. We need to get them to join Discord. You need like a place for them to congregate. And then it's like, what is the stickiness? What is like the thing that's going to bind people together and make them feel like this really is a movement? And that's kind of the way that the guilds and the roles in our Discord really played a strong kind of key element. So
what are those?
Yeah. So essentially, there's a lot of people in this industry, right? There's content creators, there's builders, there's on-chain maxis, there's threaders, there's memes, there's artists. There's all these incredible array of like talented, wonderful, introspective, intellectuals, just like the three of us, I would say, that all find their way into Web3 for different reasons. And so the way that I looked at it, I used to play WoW as a kid. I was a big gamer. Class-based MMOs, video games that are rooted in like, fantasy are very much akin to this, right? Some people like to play the magic character. Some people like to play the warrior. Some people like to be stealth. Some people like to be ranged with a bow or have a pet. It's the same concept in a game. Get in there, Blake.
Some people like to be Leroy Jenkins.
Some people like to run
Leroy Jenkins.
Some people are
That's
trolls,
a deep cut.
It's just, that is it,
cut.
right? And I love that. And that's the beauty of gaming. That's why I loved playing video games as a kid, because there's an element to escapism, and there's also an element to just freedom and being yourself. And that's also goes into like the anonymity and the privacy of blockchain. We can create characters and play. And so I wanted to create that kind of experience and movement. Like, yes, there's a self-sovereignty and a decentralization and this like seriousness to this industry, but there's also this like youthful joy and this playfulness that I wanted to be exhibited in the way that we structured the guilds. And so they're very much class-based. If you're a scholar, if you're a pathfinder, if you're a mason, if you're a Spartan, those guilds qualify the parts of the industry that those people are represented by, and allows them to play in the way that they're best suited to, with the end result of them being able to create opportunities for themselves, which is literally happening. Like, we've had community members go and get jobs in ecosystems so that they can now paint canvases on their own and get paid the same way I get paid to paint. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Really
so
proud.
The roles are kind of supporting the guilds, right? If you become a scholar, let's say you get a scholar role, and then there are roles within the guilds too, or
No, exactly right. So we're going to continue to build this out, but essentially it's like, yeah, you're a scholar, you're a teacher, so you join the Scholars Guild. It's basically like you're in this trade association of other like-minded builders, other like-minded teachers, and then you guys can like kind of come together. A great example of this is the regional explorers. They're in the Explorers Guild, but now they're doing decentralized events all over the world on behalf of movement, but also showing the world themselves, like, look at the events that I can do. We've had a ton in Nigeria, Korea, Vietnam, Thailand, Ukraine, the US. I'm going to forget countries, so please, scholars and explorers, please don't shame me. I'm just ripping off the cuff, but we've done them in like 70 countries or something crazy like that.
I think once your community, like once people in the community start forming the sub-communities and start hosting events, you know that you made it. Kind of. So what was the moment you would think that people actually started to do that themselves? Was it like, did you incentivize it in any sort of way, or was it very organic in a way that it happened?
Yeah, I think it started to happen organically at the gate. So I always like to kind of trial things. We experimented with this on Discord first with a community program, which was like, join the community, show off what you care about, and then, reach out with an idea. And actually, this is how we found one of our engineers, Andy Gole, amazing guy, messages me. He joins the community ambassador program. He was doing evangelizing for Move. And so part of it was like, this was, month 1, month 2 of movement, but part of it was if you do this and you kind of stand out, you'll get a one-on-one call with me and we can kind of jam on what you were doing. And so I get on with this guy. I'm like, holy shit, this dude's incredible. So I called Cooper and I'm like, we got to lock him in. And
hire this motherfucker.
He's an engineer at Movement now. Like he's
Let's
fully
go.
on the team. We had a bunch of community members become ambassadors of ours, guild leaders. Aday is now the community lead at Lava Labs. Shout out to Aday. Same way. He, look, we incentivize it in the sense of having roles. And then obviously with the Parthenon, then there's the idea of like, the beta testing and the test net, and then people getting move drop. But no, the people that really did it on their own accord, which was the best outcome I ever could have hoped for, they ended up with jobs. Like they ended up with, with careers now. And it's so, it gives me immense pride.
Fulfilling.
And just commenting on it, right? I think that's the beauty of going back to this whole like direct community element of like that's the beauty of it all. It's like, and I say this because like, it's like with Myosin, like we have a similar guild structure, right? And what we tell people all the time when they join the DAO is, at the end of the day, like you get as much out of this as you put in, right? Yep. If you come in and you want to take initiative, we will back you and we will support you and bring it in. But at the same time, it's like they got to take initiative. But as you just said, if you're doing good work, it should be recognized and should be rewarded. It sounds like it's happening, right?
It is.
And
that's
dude,
so
powerful.
Every time that I get hit up by, and again, like shout out to the team, Paco and Merck. I don't know how they do it. And shout out all the mods. I realized in my haste to answer you guys' question about the marketing team,
one of the hardest things. Yeah.
Dude, shout out the mods.
Unsung heroes.
Mods.
Yeah.
There would be no movement without the movement mods. And
let's go.
They're the front line. So I did a disservice. I will no longer say the marketing team numbers without including the number of mods that there are. You guys are fucking incredible. You know who you are. And I love you. And I'll never
There's probably dozens of them, I would imagine.
And that's why I realized I'm an idiot.
It's an army.
Yeah, dude, we got thousands of them, and I'm fucking saying we got 5 people. No, they're amazing. And again, I'm so blessed. We truly have an incredible community, and we have an amazing team. And I think it's a testament to the fact that we have this common goal, which is like evangelize the Move programming language and solve issues that the industry has. And you made a great point early, Blake, which was this idea of like it's a buzzword to say community.
Yeah,
I think it's similar. Like I'm trying to think what other NFT buzzwords there were, but yeah, it really kind of got polluted. I think we saw this with this Libra token launch recently where, everybody was like, memes are for everybody. And then everybody got rinsed. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait.
Like, maybe that's not a good thing.
Yeah, maybe there's a dark side to everything. And unfortunately, the term community, there's a dark side to that in crypto. It's been co-opted and it's been used to value extract from users in the pretense of community. And that's something that day one I aligned with the founders on. It's very important for me. If we're going to say we're a community first network, we're going to move like that in everything we do. Because our industry has taboos that we need to address, right? Like community value extraction. I mean, we just literally like the world is paying attention to this now. We just had a government leader, a country leader
tweeting and rugging people,
rugging the goddamn world. Like we can't do that. We got to work on that, and we have to self-regulate because it's a free market. So that's to everybody listening who's building community, please build community. Don't extract from your community. I'd be very disappointed in you if you did, and you're listening to this now. Please.
There we go. Don't disappoint Will.
My God.
Or any of us.
Ethics. I mean, it's like we can all build great business. We can all make money together. We can all move forward into the future in a joyful, community-oriented way. It doesn't need to be the grift can die with this cycle, right? We don't need to do this anymore.
And it's more fun, honestly, when you do it with other people, And what's the point?
You want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together.
Exactly.
That's an expression for things are cliche for a reason.
They sound nice, but they sound nice for a reason because it's true. Who wants to be all rich and alone on a deserted island just all by yourself? Hey, what if you have a community and friends to hang out with? That's the vibe, baby.
I want to be on a sky island with Polina and Blake, connected by sky bridges, celebrating what we did for the world. That sounds a lot more fun.
Coming next year. Coming
I
soon.
like that manifesting. Next year, Sky Island.
We manifest it. We'll make it happen. Token Sky Island. Bring it together. We'll make it happen.
I think the issue is also a lot of communities are very forced, so they die really quickly.
Yeah.
And people want to build a community. A lot of founders want to build a community, but they don't understand what it takes to build one, which is being in the trenches, talking to people, hopping on one-on-one calls, or hiring people like Will who are so into it and communicate the vision efficiently with a lot of the users. I think it's how first you build this 10 very active users, then it's 100, then it's 1,000, and then it multiplies.
Yep. That's such a valid point. I think a lot of teams neglect their power users. And that's probably one of those first 10. This is an analogy I use all the time. The first driver at Uber, I think it was Origin Protocol, I heard say this. I like to give people credit. I think I heard the Origin founder say this first. The first Uber driver should have been a millionaire because they were the first person to prove the concept of Uber. But the first Uber driver made the same amount that the 10,000th Uber driver makes. And Uber is also fleecing their drivers. They take like 70% of the revenue. It's fucked. So tip your Ubers more if you're taking Ubers.
We need decentralized Uber. I think they're trying to build it, but anyway, sorry, that's a side point. But
but I think that's like moving forward in this industry, and I think people are starting to take it more serious. But to Paulina's point, like if you don't reward your earliest users and you don't make them feel like they matter to you, then you're just going to end up with the company is going to get farmed and the users are going to get farmed because there's no trust. And that is like the most important thing that I think we can do as an industry is to look, we have trustless technology. I think it's the funniest thing in the world. The technology is the benchmark. Trustless, transparent, decentralized. Yeah. Imagine a world that operated like that. I mean, I could get fired up right now just thinking about it.
Yeah. The issue is we still have people, right? And I think that's the thing, as we, we run a network, we run a DAO, and I actually had this conversation on a phone call earlier today, which was a DAO is in theory trustless, but the challenge, and I think why a lot of DAOs failed, over the past couple of years is they failed to recognize the human side of things, right? Yep. Which is, it's still human relationships and it's still building trust. Like you said, it's about making feel like they matter. It's about making people feel like they were here for a reason and they need to get rewarded for it. And I think when we treat people too much like, I don't know, like bits and, ones and zeros, it fucks it all up, right? So, and also, by the way, and again, just kind of speaking to the community side of things, I think this is also why building community is so hard, because like you said, it's about a lot of the people in our space, lots of very smart people, lots of really impressive people, but I think they don't recognize that. And I think it's having that special sauce to build community is not as easy as it may sound. So I don't know. There's no bigger point there. I was just
it's great. Dude, you're making a fire point. This is where, and I didn't major in it, but I always found sociology and psychology to be fascinating as a tool for marketing. And again, it's like great power comes great responsibility. People can use these tools. I've said it to folks before. You can take two paths as a great marketer, right? One is the path of radical honesty and transparency, just like the blockchain. The other is the path of manipulation and deception. Do not recommend that path, but they are the two paths of great, brand building, narrative spinning. And unfortunately, to your point, both those paths are rooted in human nature. Like we can't avoid the Maslowian hierarchy of needs, but the bottom of the pyramid is like safety. The top of the pyramid is self-actualization. And I think that you see what I'm saying? Like there's a weight to that. There's like a joie de vivre to that radical honesty one. You don't self-actualize. Maybe some do on the path of deception. Maybe some people will, but you don't want that to be your end of your story, right? So that's something I would say to the community builders out there. Like, yes, we all are businesses. There's a bottom line, right? But I believe, and I think I've shown this through my work and will continue to, you can get just as far, if not farther, doing it the right way and treating people not like numbers and bits, but as human beings and addressing what their needs are on that hierarchy of scale. Because we're all in this for the same reasons. We're all looking for community. We're all looking
Yep.
for, purpose and passion. We're all looking for financial liberty and self-sovereignty. So we don't need to ignore that. I say that to people all the time. Don't ignore that you're in it for money. It's cool to be in it for money, but like, have a higher purpose than if you're just out here for money, you're a value extractor, You're a Libra. You're whatever this dude, you're the fucking football
Fuck
player
those
with
guys,
small
man.
head,
Yeah. The super
Twitter.
villain.
What the hell is his name again? Dude, that guy someone needs to PR train this dude. He's just
No, man, he just needs to be locked up with SPF, and all that.
so.
And that's all it is.
So. I feel like
Look at
SPF
what's coming to him.
pardon. I'm calling it on this show. Dude, we got 4 years. I think he might get pardoned.
I see. No, but here's the issue.
Hot
Well,
take.
I mean, just a quick side note into politics. His parents are both like hardcore Democrats who were like backed by
And Christians.
I don't think that'll happen anytime soon. I'm just saying.
I'll say this.
But I like a hot take.
I'll give a hot take. I think they are partly responsible for how this all played out. If he had stayed in the Caribbean and not signed the bankruptcy paperwork, they had the money. He could have figured it out. Someone poorly advised this man, and I'm grateful that it happened, to be honest, because I think we need to weed out bad actors.
Yeah.
And that was like a, I don't know, spiritual universe play, being like, sign the document, and then he's like, wait, I shouldn't have signed, and it's like, nope, you're coming to jail, bud. But we got
hubris. Yeah.
We just got to fix those things. And thank God that FTX went down so that the rest of the industry could come back in a more wholesome way. I think that's interesting part about decentralized industries is that we have to self-regulate. And sometimes institutions have to step in to help us regulate, because if you're trading customer funds and committing fraud, like governments need to step in. But it could have been avoided. Like his team, all those things.
Well, dude, I've ranted about this for like 3 years. I'm like, when I talk to non-crypto friends who are like, yeah, but FTX or crypto's again, I'm like, yeah, but do you know why? Like, do you know why FTX happened? Because we didn't have the regulation onshore. So he was forced to go to the Bahamas, where he could bribe the whole government and get away with all this. If we actually had legislation, if we had laws that allowed builders who want to build in America or wherever they want to build, they would be doing it here, and this may not have happened.
And
so
it was an issue of centralized. Look, we're talking about centralized versus decentralized theory. This is literally why centralized entities do not function in the context of the industry we work in, because these things can happen. You can't do an FTX with an Ethereum because it's a decentralized entity. And so it's funny, while we're on the topic of politics, we had Rushi tweeted about how government is very important for crypto companies to focus on. He got a lot of shit for it from a lot of people. I think because people misunderstood, you don't sacrifice decentralized theory to onboard a government. You are using decentralized theory to improve a government's effectiveness at benefiting people. And if we want a decentralized world, we cannot ignore institutions. We have to bring on everyone. That's the point of decentralized technology. You don't exclude people. That is
building on that. And building on that, it's a hybrid approach, right? It's like, this is the other thing. Like, it's again, like, and I hate to bring it back to Myosin, but we've been dealing with this for 3 years, right? I tell people like, oh, like, we're a network, we're a DAO, and they'll be like, how decentralized are you? Like, what's your governance structure? Like, you guys truly decentralized? I'm like, we're getting there. But these things take time, right? It's not a binary. And if decentralization can make governments and existing structures 10% better, 20% better, 30% better, that's still better than nothing, isn't it? Like, what's the alternative? Nothing happens and the government just shuts it down and then it's all done.
Yeah, exactly. It's also, we go back to the cypherpunk manifestos. The people who came up with these ideas were working in corporate settings at much more centralized entities than we were.
The irony of it all. Yeah.
They had fantastic ideas, right? Like really incredible, novel ideas that our industry is built on top of. But I think that there's an idea in this industry of talk first, think later. Yeah. And a lot of people go on crypto Twitter and troll and talk shit and smear.
And now they're just farming yaps, by the way. Yap.
And literally just rage baiting people for attention. I made a post about this, right? Where I was like, people need to study internet culture and realize they're being farmed. I don't go on Twitter and get into these debates because I'm busy building. and
Yeah.
because like opinions everyone has, but my
Oh,
value,
well, I have a saying for you. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one.
100%, and they're all subject to change. Unlike an asshole, an opinion can change, right?
I don't know. Can I? No.
It really comes down to like we have an industry that is free, and so in that freedom, people are free to criticize. But I don't have time, and I recommend this to everyone building in the space. Let them yap.
Yeah.
Focus on building, because if you're on Twitter and you're caught up in the drama, like Rushi and Coop wouldn't have listened to me being like, we need to work with the American government, we need to work with the global governments, we need to work on this, if they were paying attention to crypto Twitter's sentiment. Because Rushi, when I called him and I was like, I'm so sorry about these people talking shit, he was like, bro, don't even worry about it. We got bigger things to focus on.
Yeah.
Let's go. We love it. We love it.
Awesome.
You're fighting the good fight, and we need more people like you.
I think so.
You know?
I'm trying.
It's important. Yeah.
I appreciate that. So are
Serious
you, by
people,
the way.
man.
So is
people.
Myosin. You guys are.
We're trying, baby. We're trying.
Is it Myosin?
We heard all different ways, but generally myosin. Yeah. Myosin.
Can I get the story of why the name?
Myosin is an enzyme that creates muscle activation. So you can't have muscle. You can't activate a company or marketing without myosin.
That's fire.
Yeah,
hey, movers, make sure you show some love to Myosin when this episode comes out. That's
Appreciate
awesome.
it.
I love a good brand and I love a good story, and that's fire.
It's fun, man. That's what we're trying to do. Anti-agency.
Before this, were you?
No, it's actually one of our co-founders. He's just he does. I think you guys will really vibe. His name's Sean. He actually was episode like 20 on our first season of the pod.
Can you send me that one?
He's great. Yeah, I'll send it to you. He's a character. You'll
Shout
love
out to Sean.
Yeah. Shout out to Sean. Yeah. All right, Paulina. How are you feeling?
You wanna do rapid fire 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Have time? Okay.
Yeah,
I blocked 30 minutes later so that we could go later if we needed. So I got it. Let's do this fun.
Appreciate you.
Just don't think too much. First reaction. The first question is most underrated marketing tactic in Web3 right now.
Oh wait.
Shit about people. Oh, sorry.
Oh, let's go. Wait, no. Sorry. You gotta finish. I realized. Wait, we have one more question and then. But yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, I was gonna say we should, before we jump into rapid fire. My bad. I want to hear about what's the next move. What's coming up? Like, what should we be excited about? And then I realized we should get into rapid fire.
That's hilarious.
We're too excited. Yeah.
It's a tough thing.
Shout out to Paulina. What's the next move? Yeah. Anyways.
Next move for movement. Well, ETH Denver's next week.
Yes.
We got a lot of really great events. Obviously, we're very excited for public mainnet. Can't wait for the world to be able to, actually tangibly use the network. And for all the builders to get their moment in the sun, for the ecosystem and BD team and the engineering team to show their prowess to the world. I'm very excited. I've been waiting for this moment since I started, so I'm stoked. And then obviously, get ready for movement to become one of the biggest brands in the world. I mean, that's what my job is. And I say, by the way, for anyone listening, I am not an egomaniac. I'm sure there's moments where people are like, this dude is calling himself him. He's saying they're going to be the biggest. No, I recently watched a
believer.
You believe in the community. You should.
Yes. So Michael Jordan, best basketball player in history. I just watched a documentary about him. What I learned through this, again, going back to the beginning, Pauline, when I said I'm a very insecure, imposter syndrome oriented person, Michael Jordan didn't have that gene. I learned this through watching this documentary. He showed up. I'm going to win this game. And if my team's not coming up, I'm going to teach them how to win. And he ended up being a 6-time winning, never lost in the finals NBA champion, because his mindset was, I'm the best to ever do it. And so now I'm trying to start embodying that of I'm not saying I'm better than anyone else. I think everyone has the potential, but I'm going to be the best version I can be of me. And I'm going to help my company be the best possible version that we can be for the world. And that's the bench. That's the benchmark. If we're anywhere below that, I'm upset.
Culture of excellence.
Yes, excellence is the bar, and I'll accept nothing less. So I just don't want people to think I'm some megalomaniac. I just care. I'm just very passionate.
That comes to the rapid fire question, and I think that it was connected, right? The most underrated marketing tactic now in Web3.
Yeah, give a shit about people. Build for the world. Have passion. Be fiery. Take risks. Be a fireball. Don't take
excellent.
Be excellent. Jesus, underrated. Best.
Excellence is the benchmark.
Yeah,
it should be.
Awesome. The next one. the worst advice that's been pushed.
We went one way. We went best. Now, what's the worst?
Listen to other people. Listen to yourself. Like, have trust in your own intuition. Like, obviously, keep an open mind. But the worst advice I've ever
do listen to your earliest users, but don't.
You're like, give a shit about people, but don't listen to them.
Oh yeah, but look at the oxymoron that life presents, right? You have to listen.
That was the beauty.
I got great writing advice early in life. I wanted to write, and it was basically, look, you have to get feedback, but you're the author. So your decision is the final decision. So go get that feedback, go take that data. But at the end of the day, like, you need to make the decision for yourself. And that's the worst advice anyone can give you, is to trust somebody else over yourself. Have to believe in yourself.
There's a gut feeling. And this applies to writing, to building a company, to building products. I completely agree with that. Because it's like, as we said earlier, opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. And so, like, collect all the opinions, but as you said, trust your gut and then pick you'll know in the end what you think is right.
And you might be wrong, but at least you trusted yourself. I'd rather be wrong 10 times out of 10 because I said, Will, let's ride. Then I was right because I was like, fuck you, Will, I'm listening. It's like, nah, like, I didn't go that way.
I love it. I love it.
Okay, next one. Which crypto brand or project is crushing it now? And that's not Movement. It can be from the ecosystem.
Oh my God, I have so many that I love. I love Union. I love Aptos. I think Monad's done community in a really good way. I think
they just did testnet. Yeah,
they just got on testnet. I think obviously, like, the Pudgy Penguin ecosystem has done phenomenal in terms of, like, building community. I think Abstract, they're learning, they're getting their feet under them for building. So I wish them a lot of luck. Bracket sounds really like I really
Bracket Games. Bracket Games.
They're just like, the way that they're approaching predictions market, I find fascinating. So I got to give them some credit. I'm trying not to go too deep into our ecosystem. So Bracket, I'm going to take that back so that
just to be fair to everyone else.
Just to be fair to the rest of the ecosystem. But and obviously I got to shout out the fucking Ethereum and Vitalik. Like, we wouldn't exist without them. We wouldn't exist without Aptos and Sui. And obviously our earliest supporters. Shout out to Avalanche.
Let's go. Shout out Avalanche. We love the red triangle. Wait, by the way, actually, while we talked about Vitalik real quick, I just want to drop this little bit of trivia, which you talked earlier, and I love this connection point between when we talked earlier about the guilds and your love of WoW and
Ethereum is a part of the Netherstorm in WoW.
Yeah. Ethereum came from WoW, so it's like it all kind of
the craziest thing is Ethereum is a guild in the region called the Netherstorm in an expansion of WoW. I'm such a fucking nerd for WoW, by the way.
Guys, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Like, WoW guild.
There's a decentralized lore that Vitalik came up with Ethereum because his class, his warlock, was nerfed, and he was like, that's when I realized there was problems with centralized entities, because the feedback from the community, remember, listen to your community feedback, was do not nerf warlocks. And they were like, fuck your feedback, we're doing it anyway. And then Vitalik went and made Ethereum. So shout out to the WoW devs for not listening to community. Maybe you should have, and you would have kept Vitalik, but
World of Warcraft, Ethereum would not exist without World of Warcraft, movement, community, and guilds. Exactly.
That's crazy. I never
shout out World of Warcraft. Some deep lore for you.
I'm working on some alpha for the people who made it this far into the episode. I'm working on some ways of giving back to the WoW community. Stay tuned.
Oh, nice. We love an alpha.
That's an alpha.
That's alpha.
Let's go.
Yeah. The last one. What's your biggest learning as a Web3 marketer looking back? One that
to believe in myself. To believe in myself and to believe in what I believe. I was told my entire career, I was told my entire life I wasn't gonna be shit. I had teachers in France beating me up, telling me I was never gonna make it through high school. I had family telling me that I wasn't gonna amount to shit. I had people laughing at me out of offices at Sony, CAA, the government telling me that this isn't gonna work. And look at where we're at now.
Let's go.
Called Sonium now, all right? That's how I knew I was right. NFTs had their moment in the sun. I said that was going to happen. You got to believe in yourself. Even if the world is telling you no, trust in yourself, and every marketer needs to believe in themselves. There's a great example. How can in the world think you're an artist if you don't think you're an artist?
Let's go. That's a great way to end it. Well, this
Yeah.
was fantastic, my friend. I think this
Thank you, Will.
I've low key this is my favorite episode so far this season.
Oh,
I'm just gonna say it out loud. So we've
God,
got a lot
you
of great
gotta
guests on here.
with that, dude.
Yeah, we've had a lot of great guests, but this is one of my favorites. Just the
It's very
flow,
kind of
the vibes. You crush it.
Thank
I
you.
feel the love. I feel your energy. I understand why people love movement so much. And yeah, I get it, man.
Part 2
So you're
after
crushing
if
it.
Denver.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of
Say
Retro.
more.
I'm learning about Myosin now. I came
Yeah.
onto the show. You know, we were first of all, shout out to Jay for introducing us.
Yes. Jay's
Yeah.
a
Very,
king.
very cool. Shout out to Pangea. I'm a fan of yours now. This is one of my.
Let's go.
This is awesome. Sorry, I keep
Join
coughing.
the DAO.
We'll get you in. All right. But dude, this was great. Oh, last thing. Call to action. What should people do? How do they find you? How do they get involved with movement? How do they join the movement? Let the people know. And,
Yeah, call to action. Well, first and foremost, love yourself. To the person who's listening to this right now, you are uniquely great in everything that you do. Don't let the world tell you otherwise. I love you.
Yeah.
And second to that, obviously less important than you're loving yourself, but I think is important is learn about the movement, learn about Myosin. You can find us at Movement Labs XYZ on Twitter. Our Discord's there. You can go to @livingwithwill. If you don't trust links, go to my Twitter and you can click on it in my bio so you know you're not going to get scammed when you go there. And make sure you go to Myosin as well and you follow Polina and Blake because, you know, this wouldn't have happened without them. And, you know, thank you for having me on your show. This is a fucking blast.
Thank you.
This is a fucking blast, man. This is so good.
That's fun.
Yeah, and I'll see you in Denver very soon. This be fun.
Call to action. Come to Modular Day. Why didn't I say that, dude? I'm so bad at my job. Come to our events if you're in Denver so that you can see Blake. Polina, are you coming?
No.
At least you'll get to see Blake and I. And
we'll take some selfies. We'll be like, what's up?
We'll Photoshop me on the selfies.
Yeah,
very good.
Like a second head on me. Where,
Yeah.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much. This was a blast.
You
Thank
too,
you,
man.
Will.
This was really good. Have a good one. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Fucking
I'll see you soon.
online.
All right.
Welcome to
Ciao,
the movie,
ciao.
y'all.
Let's go.
Jeez.